banger, L.
Let go.
Wow. Feel that vibration. Vibrate with me. Vibrate with me, L. Woo. Hey.
Oh man, how's your
Zany.
How you reeling, man?
Oh,
I know how you feeling, but how are you reeling?
Live and direct, man. We in the forest. We way up, baby. Keep that going, L.
Oh man, what it do, man? How y'all really, man? How y'all really? That's how we enter the dojo every single night. Garments feeling nice and white, pure water. I think it's time for one of them dragonfly perspectives. It's tribal mafia every time we step through the door, man. It's tribal mafia every time we step through the door, man. What it do in the drop chatter, chatter, shalom.
Shalom.
Peace and power to all the families surfing the wave across the plain. What it do, shalom.
Shalom.
Tawada to all the Ether squad dropping that drop on the daily.
Bye.
Go get they drop. You know, I just did another great updating on the site, so you got everything archived. You know, any tribal member you looking to get that drop, categories, man, and you will be there, man. Find their name on the right hand side of the page.
Shekinah, Excellence,
Can you dig it?
Zion.
Oh man, I see the family is in the building, man. I see Ty, Bat, Zion,
T.Y.
in the building.
T.Y. All the time, y'all check out the poetry. Please stay tuned for the poetry.
Oh man, we just got back in the building.
It's just a tune-up, baby. Just a tune-up.
Lou been putting it down all night long. What it do?
We just vibrate, man. We just vibrate.
Sisters in Drop Nation are standing up, man. Shakina is back in the building. Chatter. You already know, man. It's time for Milwaukee to stand up. We got the
stand up.
Hiram Mark back in the building, dog. Milwaukee stand up. Tribal Mafia, man. You know it. We got true vibrations popping, man. You already know we in the mix now, man. We got the homie Silent. Back in the building. Come on, man. Keep it going for the family. Zelion. Man, keep it going for the drop chatter. Oh, man, keep it going for yourself. What it do? You know what I'm saying? It's that time. It's that time, you know, to know. To not just be guessing no more. You know what I mean? It's that time to know. It's time for us to start knowing some things, you know? To start standing on something. You know what I mean? Look, people have made stands knowing a lot less than we know. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
We know enough to put our foundation down, to know that our Ahchwa, our energy is long. It's everlasting. Forever. The seeds of David live on. The seeds of Crescent John live on. The seeds of the messenger of the world live on. The seeds of our friend and shaper live on. And this you should know by now. When I say keep it going for yourselves, I'm saying hit yourself with a dragonfly. Talking that paper route. We just talking that paper route, man. Where B.O.B. at, man? Come on, man. I don't trust his IG no more. But let go.
So you know who you fucking with. Ain't no Democrat and by far, but no Republican. This the type of talk that'll probably piss off my publicist, and I ain't even started.
Y'all see what it do? You see what it do, baby? Y'all pie.
With the law or make the government come after me in public. Won't hear this on the radio. This here is not for publishing. This ain't that bubble gum shit. No, this ain't that doublemint. Consider this a risk. I swear I see them building pyramids brick by brick. They'll aim at anyone bold enough to go against the shit. You don't believe me? Look what happened to the Dixie Chicks. It's like nobody else complains till you try to be more than a nigga with a chain. You've already told you they corrupted everything, and we just out here trying to function, trying to maintain. 100 miles an hour running when I hit the ground. Thoughts moving through my head at the speed of sound. I pray, my prayers make it through the cloud. Pray in heaven, make the fucking niggas ain't allowed. 100 miles an hour running when I hit the ground. Thoughts moving through my head at the speed of sound. I pray, my prayers make it through the cloud. Till then, it's back to the paper route. And of course, it's unfortunate that niggas out here robbing for Jordans. Can we not afford them, but got enough to get a Glock 40? Is our views on reality kinda distorted? But still, even though I understand the story, I still fall weak for a booty that's proportionate on a sexy short bitch. So what's the score? Chilling with some red dogs, drinking white man's poison. Now that's a forfeit. Selling West for free, that's extortion. But still I'm wondering what family was present when history was recorded. 100 miles an hour running when I hit the ground. Thoughts moving through my head at the speed of sound. I pray, my prayers make it through the cloud. Pray in heaven, make them fucking niggas ain't allowed. 100 miles an hour running when I hit the ground. Thoughts moving through my head at the speed of sound. I pray, my prayers make it through the cloud. Till then, it's back to the paper route. You think you really know what's going on? They passing laws where they can run up in your own home. Cameras on your laptop, TV, and your iPhone. The battery don't come out, that mean it's always on. Smile and say cheese, yeah niggas gotcha. I told you fuckers 3 years ago about the watches. If you don't take the micro trip, then you can't make no dollars. This ain't no lovely day for a neighbor, ain't no Mr. Rogers. Don't let them fuckers rob us for our freedom and our rights. And you be like, it's on the news, so it must be right. Who's pulling the strings? Who's rolling the dice? Who's calling the shots? And who's starting the fight? 100 miles an hour running when I hit the ground. Thoughts moving through my head at the speed of sound. I pray, my prayers make it through the cloud. Pray in heaven, make them fucking niggas ain't allowed. 100 miles an hour running when I hit the ground. Thoughts moving through my head at the speed of sound. I pray, my prayers make it through the cloud. It's back to the paper route.
Man, I just wanted to hit y'all over the head with some real shit for a hot minute. If you haven't been there, man, you need to get there like ASAP, ASAP. Alright, you see how it's going down. You feel the energy, you feel the vibration, you feel the frequency, man. Yeah, they over there live and direct in the chat, man. Y'all go check it out if you haven't been there. It's exciting. When has your information, your crystal, when have you been able to recrystallize yourself, man, as such in a so vibrant way? Come surf with us, man. Come on, man, don't be scared to jump in the water. Don't be scared to jump in the water, because you are the water. You are the water, my brethren. You are the water. The water. The water. What's up, man? Peace and power. Peace and power. Wow. I love these power wows, don't you? Peace and power wow, man. What's today's date? It really don't matter, because we know about date and time. Alright, we know about date and time, so it really doesn't matter. But good blessings to you all. Top of the sun. Top of the sun to you all. Alright. The weather's still acting funny in the ill mill. Alright? But we here holding it down, man. It's still chilly willy in the millie, but we still here. Still holding it down. But best believe it's just temporary. No, not the weather. I'm talking about me holding it down here in the mill. It's just temporary. Alright? We all must pay attention to the signs. But that's a beautiful thing. Y'all see what for what it's worth, man. And if you can't grasp what the first 5 minutes was about, it's because it's over your head. See, sometimes you got to realize that the things that we're doing or the things that someone might be doing might just be ahead of their time. So, lots lack understanding. But man, we here to overstand understanding. Alright, we here to turn information into knowledge. Alright, because it's our information, is your information, man. We still hunting for this Prester John. Alright? It's not a name, it's a title. Prester means priest, John means king. This Wang Khan. Wan means priest, Khan means king. Same thing. These priest kings, and you try to say that priest kings don't exist? Come on, man. They telling you Columbus and the apocalyptic imagination, right? We already know Columbus came over looking for cities of gold. But see, what you fail because we do so much trying to understand, we fail to realize that you were the gold. Naga, you were the gold. You were the gold. So somehow they have jacked everything. Your priest kingdoms, your priests. I mean, wow. So we've been on a hunt for day one to let you know, man, that we are, still is, here, and we are still royal. And we are finding and have found the priest kingdom. Alright, but man, you know, like everybody in the Shabbat tells you that if you ain't looking for Prester John, if you ain't looking for David, if you ain't looking for Moshe, if you ain't looking for the seeds, then you're not trying to be free. You're just trying to go along with the program, right? And who program is that? May I ask? My fair Yasharella, my fair Yaakov, my Leviathan. May I ask that question? May I ask that question? Yeah, man, we don't want to get too deep. Not just yet. Not just yet. But hunting for this priest king and this priest kingdom. And now they've always intertwined Columbus, because now we can line it up. We know when Christopher Columbus came. We know when the voyages came. We know when the Spanish and the Portuguese and the French and then the artificial New Zealanders and the artificial everywhere, man. Where did these people come from? But I think we hitting you over the head. We getting down to it. We getting down to the bottom of what's really going on. You see, at a time when there was a time, this whole planet had forces of melanated people all over it. Yeah, Naga, believe that. Had forces of melanated Hebrews all over the world. Not just in America, people. The Naga is all over the world. We are family all over the world. Shem, it's all over the world. Remember, Shem will be moved all over the world, will be scattered all over the world. So with me in saying that, our destruction, we want to get into that, the destruction of the Hebrews. See, because they're calling them Jews. But see, what they got to understand is that if I have a seed, or what you got to understand that if I have a seed by a foreign woman, a woman of a caliber of something other than my foundation of morals, within my tribal community, right? Say her morals and her worships are different. They don't even coincide together with mine, right? And then we have children, right? And then we have children. At the worst, we have children. Now, what are these children? How will we bring them up? Can anybody answer that? How can we bring them up? When their mother believed in something totally different than what we believe. Their mother was raised on different morals than what we were raised on. So the strong would say, man, we'll just teach the mother, right? Yeah. You would think in a perfect world that's how it would go, but all I'm saying, people, is I want you to think a little bit. We're going to hit you over the head with some real shit, man. We're going to drop it right on you. Now, when we're getting into this destruction of the Hebrews and this Josephus, Bar Mattathias, see, we have to understand that this is during the Second Temple. Right? When they give you these times, you have to understand that it is something that they call verbatim or typology. But as we read the War of the Hebrews, we can actually see that just by your vibration, the actual truths that's different from other truths, say in the New Testament, or other places where it be the War of the Hebrews. So what I mean is this is, now we read, if you've been paying attention, if you've been in the classroom, if you've been in the ether, or if you've been at the drop library, okay, you understand that every week I've been hitting you over the head with this Caesar's Messiah. And in the first couple chapters, it just breaks, well, it tries to, this Joseph tries to break everything down from that group of gathered information from the scholars, right? But the thing is that in that instrument, they used the Romans, per se, right? They use these, say, Romans, Vespasian, right, to be against Judah. But in the war of the Hebrews, Judah fought with Rome, the real Rome, against the Epiphans and Antipater and all your generals who was actually supposed to sojourn with Rome to help them. But whoever these generals that Rome hired, right, they were totally not trying to. They actually, what they did is try to take over the whole thing. And what I meant by that, they fought with themselves. They even fought with Rome. You understand? Once Rome hired these barbaric savages, and I think that's a compliment, that these people and their families basically tried to take over and infiltrate the whole thing, the whole destruction of our people. And they also enslaved the Romans also. The real Romans, the real Romani, the real pomegranate. So now when you read the story, you can actually see that when you're talking about the Second Temple and the time span between this Josephus, you can actually see when and the Pharisees and Judaism had already formed. The Second Temple had already been built. So what I'm trying to say is, during this New Testament, I think it's safe to say that during this New Testament, the fact that could this be that these were not the original Hebrews in this land? Because we must not forget about the story of Genghis Khan, okay? And or Charlemagne, or the story of bringing in a whole heap of people, sitting in and taking over Israel, taking over the Israel people, taking over Yasher. And us having to bring priests because our land was so of sanctity, so sanctified that the animals would kill these foreigners, that this new leader moved in to live on our land and our citadels and our temples. And the animals would eat them alive until we came to show them how to rock with our Creator. So it's a lot of different stories, but the story being that when we first talk about this so-called war between us, meaning between what you would call Moor on Moor or black on black, or brother on brother, meaning Ishmael against Judea. When you talk about the 7 crowns, the 7 lamps, see, the Most High ordained it. But see, when you get into these stories, That's not the actual story. When you get into this Flavius pretending to be this Messiah, come on, man. And parading and masquerading around in vain of the Creator. But the point is that yes, there was invasion of a priestly kingdom here in the Americas. And yes, you were first invaded by blacks, right? By so-called blacks. Okay? Your first invasion was by Romani. Okay? But see, the Romani, I wouldn't call that an invasion, because Romani was just prophesizing. So you have to understand, Romani and Tiberius, or what we call Toby. Toby is Hebrew. Tiberius is Hebrew. Those are Hebrews. That's Shem. Okay? That's Shem. So Shem, in order of the Most High, had to get Shem in order, its own house in order. Now, when we get into Caesar's Messiah, we see that, matter of fact, we can just go there now. We can just go there now in the Caesar's Messiah. And we want to go down to what page? Maybe 160, 190 maybe. Okay. And what did we come to right here? Page 188. A false prophet was the occasion of these people's destruction. Who are these peoples? We're talking about Judea. We're talking about Judah. All right. A false prophet was the occasion of these people's destruction, who had made a public proclamation in the city that very day that God commanded them to go upon the temple, them to get upon the temple, and that there they should receive miraculous signs of their deliverance. They will be delivered something, and they will see miraculous signs. Now there was then a great number of false prophets, suborned by the tyrants, okay, to impose on the people, who denounced this to them. They should wait for deliverance from God. Okay, this is in Caesar's Messiah, that they should wait for deliverance of God. So somewhere somebody flipped your Messiah. Okay, understand that. Somewhere somebody flipped your Messiah. Okay? A false prophet was the occasion of our destruction. Why is that? Because a false prophet will come and give you what? False direction. A false prophet will come and mislead you. And what did it say? A false prophet was the occasion of these people's destruction. Okay? Because what did they do? The false prophet said, go up into the temple. Go up into the temple, and go into the temple and be stagnant at a time when it was time to be moving like water. when it was time to be moving like water. Okay, let's continue to read a little bit. Jesus described the route the Son of Man would take. For just as the lightning flashes in the east and is seen to the very west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Okay? This was the direction of the march of the Roman army. The Roman army, as they entered Judea on the east and carried their conquest westward. Now, we know this war of what this Jesus supposedly speaks of, that they call, was the direction of the march of the Roman army. Do you know how many conquests that there were that was against Judea? And even then, when you came and filled the country up of men who weren't Judah, then they imposed wars on you to mimic the original war of Judea. Okay, so when you're reading in the New Testament, you're reading a mimic of the war, a typology of the war on the Hebrews by this fake Roman, these imposters. Do you understand now? Because your brother came through God's will, through Ahchwa's will. But in the New Testament, I don't know who that is. All I'm saying is that's not Romani, that's not the pomegranate. That's not the pomegranate. That's not the pomegranate. This was the direction of the march of the Roman army as they entered Judea on the east and carried their conquest westward. Okay, let's check out like in Daniel. Like Daniel 7:13, the New Testament Jesus sees a sign of the Son of Man in the sky, foreshadowing that the destruction is imminent. One like the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven. In Josephus, we read an actual sign in the clouds foretelling the imminent destruction. Okay, now they're talking about a sign. Now, in this book, they told us it was numerous of signs. It was numerous of signs, and they got it from, the scholars and from the past books that let us know what actually happened. So, before sun setting, chariots and troops of soldiers in their armor were seen running about among the clouds. How did that happen? The parallel between the sign of chariots and troops among the clouds given by Josephus and the sign of the Son of Man in the sky given by Jesus is problematic for Christianity. If one accepts, as the early Christian scholars did, that the signs Jesus gives in Matthew came to pass with the signs Josephus records, you see how they got a verbatim? You see how they have the verbatim? Two signs that they're trying to contrast or not compare, but they're trying to intertwine as one. Okay, when these were two different wars. They were two different wars. This so-called Jesus war was really Flavius. Okay, was really Titus Flavius. And so when he predicted the signs of your enemy coming to capture you, kill you, and enslave you once over again, meaning partly of your descendants being in these citadels at the time, because the real war on the Hebrews had already happened. All right? It had already happened. Okay, that's why they get you to create these sacrifices, these blood sacrifices. That's why they get the now you call it the Jews. That's why they get the Jews, the so-called sacrifices, because they are not the indigenous people of the temple, of the land, of the citadel, of Jerusalem, of Masada. The Sea of Galilee, Ganavera. It's not the indigenous people. So therefore, it's easy for them to get you to defile the Creator. So let's check out a couple more signs. But remember, if one accepts the early Christianity, if one accepts, as the early Christian scholars did, that the signs Jesus gives in Matthew came to pass with the signs Josephus records, then it is difficult to gainsay that Jesus was referring to Titus as the Son of Man, because they're putting them both together, as meaning that they're putting the same timeline. They're putting this Jesus story and they're putting Josephus' story in the same timeline on the same date. Okay, so then it would be hard to distinguish that this so-called Jesus was referring to Titus as the Son of Man. Chariots and troops being more synonymous with leaders of Roman armies. Chariots and troops being synonymous with leaders of Roman armies than the religious sagas or sages. This parallel is as clear as any one of the other parallels between the signs that Jesus foresees in Matthew 23 and 24 and the signs that Josephus gives in the War of the Jews. All right, and to attempt to exclude it would constitute special pleading of interest is the fact that on the Ark of Titus at Rome, there is a relief depicting both Titus, consecratio, and his conquest of Jerusalem, which shows him being carried into the clouds on an angel. Other scholars have noticed the connection between Jesus and Titus that Jesus' sign regarding chariots and troops creates. The 18th century theologian Relin wrote concerning this particular sign that many will here look for a mystery, as though the meaning were that the Son of God came now to take vengeance on the sins of the Hebrew nation. Relin was simply stating the obvious, since Jesus' eschatological prophecies were solely regarding the destruction of Judea by the Romans. They appeared to envision him coming at the head of the Roman army, because Titus was the head of the army that destroyed Jerusalem. The parallel that this sign creates between Jesus and him seems clear. Continuing with the list of signs, in the New Testament, Jesus predicts woe for women who are suckling a child, and woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. Josephus shows that this came to pass. So he just goes into that story again over a typology. Let's go to actually, you'll see if it's a favorite right here. All right. Alright, so let's check out. Let me see if I can get it a little bigger. Get a little bigger. Alright. Okay, so let's see if we can find some correlation. Now let me see. Let's go back. We'll go back to the beginning, where it just breaks down the epiphany and the antipater. But we'll find it. We'll get it together in here. All right. Let's check this out. Okay. This is Josephus' book of the taking of Jerusalem by Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay. The taking of Jerusalem by Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay. Now, that was a general for the Romans. Okay, and this is the taking of Jerusalem. This is the siege of Jerusalem, of the temple. This is the capturing and the enslavement of Judea. This is Josephus' destruction of the Jews. Okay, containing the interval of 167 years from the taking of Jerusalem by Antiochus Epiphanes to the death of Herod the Great. All right. So from the taking of Jerusalem by Antiochus Epiphanes to the death of Herod the Great. Now, see, in this book, what they're going to do is distinguish the Romans from this Antioch. From this Antioch and the garrison. And so let's check it out. Chapter 1 is how the city Jerusalem was taken and the temple pillaged by Antiochus Epiphanes, as also concerning the actions of Maccabees, Matthias, and Judas, and concerning the death of Judas. Now, you learned in the New Testament that this Judas was an enemy of this Jesus Christ, right? But see, they didn't tell you that if Jesus Christ was the descendant of, if actual descendant of you, then Judas, he would tell you, was Hebrew. Judas was also a Israelite. So it don't tell you that in the actual New Testament. But it tells you that all over the place. All over the place. And that's what you have to understand or understand, that you need more than one book to read the New Testament. So let's get into it. Yeah, Judas was an Israelite, man. Judas was more of an Israelite than anybody was. Because Judas come from Judah, from Yehuda. At the same time that the Antiochus, who was called Epiphanes, had a quarrel with the sixth Ptolemy about his right to the whole country of Syria. All right, now dodge your own hijacks. Okay, because they're talking about, they're trying to get you to refer to somewhere across the water. A great sedition fell among. And if they're trying to get you to talk about somewhere across the water, then they're letting you know that this is a rendition. You have to understand that. Because they're over in Syria. If you see they name Syria, I mean, they got the capital being Israel, being over in that area in Palestine. But see, that's why you have to understand, if they're writing books on these wars happening over there, this is duality. This is a typology of what's really the wars that actually took place here. Okay? So they're taking these titles, and just re-implementing them all over again. And that's how they're keeping us enslaved. That's why they put you on the back burner, Hebrew, my melanated Naga. That's why you're on the back burner and you're not seen nowhere indigenous to any land. Did you know that? To their eyes, you're not seen anywhere anywhere as being a person of indigenous that's indigenous to any land. Other than Africa. Why is that? Because that's the only way this is going to work. This new covenant. That's the only way it's going to work. And that's what people fail to realize. So you got to dodge your hijacks. But look for the food, because they're only talking about the original war that our people suffered through. Okay, but when they come with these reenactments and they're trying to get you to bow down to them because they're saying that the Most High ordained this war on you, this destruction on you because of what you done. And they're creating it all over again. All over again. And we fall for it because we don't stand up and fight. Because we don't stand up and fight. All right, so at the same time that the Antiochus, who was called Epiphans, had a quarrel with the sixth Ptolemy about his right to the whole country of Syria, a great sedition fell among the men of power in Judea. A great sedition, that means a great harm, terror, fell upon the men of power in Judea. And they had a contention about obtaining the government, while each of those that were of dignity could not endure to be subject to their equals. Okay, the ones of dignity could not be subject to the equals. However, Onias, one of the high priests, got the better and cast the sons of Tobias out of the city, who fled to Antiochus and besought him to make use of them for his leaders. Okay, now when we look up Onias, we know that Onias, which was one of the high priests. All right. Let's just check it out. Onias, Hebrew. Aniyahu, any of several Jewish high priests at the time of the second temple. All right. Onias the first. Onias was the son of Jaddua, or Yahuda, mentioned in Nehemiah. According to Josephus, this Jaddua, or Yahuwah, is said to have been a contemporary of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great. First Maccabees regards Onias as a contemporary of the Spartan king Arius the First. So we got to understand that these are Hebrews and this is Yasher. But now, okay, now let's look. When it goes to Anya the first, then you got Onias the second, son of Simon, the just and probable grandson of Onias, high priest in the early 2nd century, before the common era of before Christ, 2nd century. Onias the third, son of Simon, second high priest in the early. Okay, so then there's Onias the fifth, son of Onias, who was never high priest, but built the temple in the land of Onias. Menasseh was high priest in Jerusalem from 167 BCE. So all of this is before Christ. He was high priest at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt. Okay, so Okay, so we can see their meaning to refer this Ayans, and now Ayans, one of the high priests, got the better and cast the sons of Tobias. Okay, Tobias out of the city, who fled to Antiochus. Okay, who fled to Antiochus and besought him to make use of them for his leaders and to make an expedition into Judea. The king being thereto disposed beforehand, complied with them, and came upon the Jews with a great army, and took their city by force. So this Tobias went and helped the Antiochus. Now Tobias, let's go down, is a Greek version of the Hebrew Bible. Biblical name Tobiah is the Greek version. Tobias is the Greek version of a Hebrew biblical name, Toviah, meaning the goodness of God. It is a popular male given name in Germany, Australia, Switzerland, Netherlands, Belgium, South Africa, Scandinavia, the United Kingdom, United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and amongst Hebrew people. You see how they give it to you, Hebrew people. And amongst Hebrew people. Okay, so they're telling you, listen, right here is all the people that what? Enslaved you, right? So now, they're all the kingdoms that enslaved you. So all of these kingdoms had a what? A Tobias. After the Hebrew biblical name, Tobiah. So it's safe to say that all these kingdoms right here are imitating the original Jewish people. See, Jews, where do we get that from? Now they want to hide it. Okay, where are they hiding now, though? Let me see, did I get it? Nope. Okay, there we go. Jews or Jewish people are an ethno-religious group and a nation originating from the Israelites or Hebrews of the ancient Near East. That's here. Jewish ethnicity, nationhood, and religion are strongly interrelated as Judaism is the traditional faith of the Jewish people, while its observance. Now, we know that the Hebrew people are before Judaism. Okay, so once Judaism was formed, the ism, understand, puts a different category of people into the worship. Okay, the ism creates that. Okay, so at the time of these wars, the ism was already there. That's what you have to understand. The ism were already there. So that means the people foreign to your father was already there. So when they formed Judaism, there had already been a takeover. There had already been an implement of a foreign people into these cities by a king already. Okay? So that's why now when you read about Tobias in Greek, okay, it's supposed to be the goodness of God, who God sent, the ordaining Tobias, the ordaining of your Hebrew brother, right? Coming to save the goodness of Ahchwa, right? But look at all these kingdoms that form the name Tobias, the title of the Hebrew people. All right. So now check this out. In English speaking countries, it is often shortened to Toby. To Toby. Now let's think about that movie, the slave movie, Roots. What he said? He said, "Your name is Toby, boy." He said, "What's your name?" Kuta Kente. And he said, "Your name is Toby, boy. Your name is Toby, boy." What does that mean? What does that mean when this so-called enemy predicted in the movie calls you by the name of Toby? Or was that your real enemy? Letting you know that you're Hebrew by calling you Toby. Because Toby is short for Tobias, right? Tobias is just a Greek version of the name Tovia. Tovia, right? Let's search Tovia. Boy's name meaning origin and popularity. What does Tovia name mean? One second. Two of the names for Moshe were Tov and Tovia. Check this out. Check this out. The name Toby. The German Sota 12 lists many names that are given to Moshe. The first two names listed are Tav, and Tavia. Obviously, these two names are derived from the verse that at the birth of Moshe, she, his mother, saw that he was good. What is the difference in these names? Ayi, Ha, Yam explains that the two names signify vastly different characteristics. Tav indicates that Moshe was good by his very nature. Tavia, good through the Most High, Ahchwa, indicates that Moshe was not good naturally, but he struggled and turned his bad indignation to good. This seems to center on which is higher, a Zadik or a Baal Teshuvah. This dispute is echoed in the controversy surrounding the story regarding Moshe cited by the Tefres Yisrael at the end of his commentary on Mishnah Kudishim. Okay, at the time that Moshe led the Hebrews out of Egypt, the neighboring nations were fearful about the potential menace led by an unknown leader. Therefore, one king hired a well-known artist to make a portrait of Moshe. When the portrait was brought to the king, his wise advisors declared that based on the portrait, the leader, Moshe, appeared to be born full of bad natural values. Then, when the king actually met Moshe, he was surprised to find Moshe to be from a high moral values. You hear that? When the portrait was brought to the king, his wise advisors declared that based on the portrait, based on a picture, why? Based on a picture, why? Why? Could have been his hair texture. Because of his hair texture. Because you can't say the color of his skin. You have to say because of his hair texture. Hanaga? Then, when the king actually met Moshe, he was surprised to find Moshe. He was surprised. Why would he be surprised to find Moshe to be of a high moral values? He asked Moshe about the differences. Moshe told the king that he was born with bad attributes, and he struggled to turn those attributes into good. Some bring this story without mentioning Moshe, Shida, Mekabitsa. Other scholars concluded that story has non-Jewish origins. Many dispute the concept that Moshe could have been born with bad middles. They're talking about this skin, but nah. Makabalan say Moshe's body and soul came from a source not capable of bad. As the Midrash relates that at Moshe's birth the house became full of light. However, many Chassidic masters bring the story as examples of the possibilities of a person overcoming their nature, or Na Moshe, the Gel Ephraim, alright, Kudashas, Levi. This apparent bad nature of Moshe led many to believe Moshe was still capable of bad, such as warning Moshe regarding married women. See Magadim Chadashim on Baracos for a full discussion of these opinions. Okay, first of all, a lot of people at that time spread rumors about Moshe, but like you say, of being with married women. And they were jealous of Moshe in the camp that was in Tehillim 106. Everyone formally warned his wife not to be secluded with Moshe. Okay? Did y'all know that gist of jealousy? Mean, jealous, or indicate a formal warning given to suspected adulterers. Okay? Okay, the Midrash lists 10 names associated with Moshe, with each one alluding to his stellar qualities. Alright, we know the name Jared, right? Yared brought down the Torah to earth, or finished restoring the Sechina from the seventh heaven. Okay, Avigdor instituted Gadarim, precautionary measures to protect the Torah laws from violations. Okay, Avigdor. Shaviar joined the Jews by means of Miskan. Avi Socha created prophet. Envisioned Socho, who ever lived. Yakusiel taught the Jews to place their hope and trust in Hashem. Avi Sanuach, successful in leading the Jews or the Hebrews to abandon idol worship. Tav or Tavia, good. Shemaiah, Hashem listened to his prayers. Ben Nasanel, the person to whom Hashem gave the Torah. Levi, from the family of Levi, Lavi. Nevertheless, the Torah uses only the name Moshe, since Baz Parah saved his life. Hashem taught us to show gratitude. Alright, to show gratitude. Okay. Yeah, we're going to have to check that out. Pleasure and fragrance to Hashem, Levi, and corrupt religious leadership. Christian Day, Christmas Day, Mass. Yeah, we check that out. But the point is that over the name, so you got to dodge your own hijacks, because over the name, Tobias. Okay, he wanted to get Tobias out of the city, who fled to Antiochus and besought him to make use of them for his leaders, and to make an expedition into Judea. Okay, why would the real Tobias want to do that? Why would the real Moshe want to do that? Tav, the king being thereto disposed beforehand, complied with them, and came upon the Jews with a great army. Okay, so they would have had Moshe. They would have had Moshe, and to fight against the Hebrews, the king being disposed, you know what I'm saying? And came upon the Jews with a great army and took their city by force, and slew a great multitude of those that favored Ptolemy, and sent out his soldiers to plunder them without mercy. And sent out his soldiers to plunder them without mercy. He also spoiled the temple, and put to a stop to the constant practice of offering a daily sacrifice of expiation. Expiation for 3 years and 6 months. Expiation. I gotta see what that word means, family. Shabbatah. I gotta see what that word means. Expiation.
Expiation, the act of making amends or reparation for guilt or wrongdoing, atonement.
Okay, so that is atonement. He also spoiled the temple, and put to a stop the constant practice of offering a daily sacrifice of expiation. Okay, for 3 years and 6 months. Okay, but Anias, the high priest, fled to Ptolemy, and received the place from him in Nomus of Heliopolis, where he built a city resembling Jerusalem, and a temple that was like its temple, concerning which we shall speak more in a proper place hereafter. Now Antiochus was not satisfied either with his unexpected taking the city, or with its pillage, or with the great slaughter he made there, but being overcome with his violent passions. Okay, this is Antiochus. Okay, and remembering what he had suffered during the siege, he compelled the Jews to dissolve the laws of their country. Okay, he compelled, meaning that he just forced. He forced the Jews to dissolve the laws of their country, and to keep their infants uncircumcised, and to sacrifice swine flesh upon the altar, against which they all opposed themselves. All right, now who is this? This is Antiochus. This is Epiphanes. Okay, so was that a Hebrew? Nah, man. Antiochus was somebody hired by the so-called Romans, right? And the most approved among them were put to death. Bachides also, who was sent to keep the fortresses, having these wicked commands, joined to his own natural barbarity, indulged all sorts of extremist wickedness. All right. Bacchides. Okay, Bachides was a Hellenistic Greek general, friend of the Syrian Greek king Demetrius, and ruler in the country beyond the river Euphrates. Okay, so we know Euphrates is in America. The Euphrates River is in America. This is 161 BCE. Demetrius, okay, friend of the Syrian Greek king Demetrius, and ruler in the country beyond the river Euphrates. Demetrius sent him in 161 BCE to Judea with a large army in order to invest the recreate alchemists with the office of high priest. The peaceable Assyrians credulously expected friendship from him, but contrary to oath and covenant, he cruelly slew 60 of them. Leaving Jerusalem, he made a slaughterhouse of Beth Zakah, and after handing the country over to alchemists, returned to the king. So, his own barbarity indulged all sorts of extremist wickedness and tormented the worthiest of the inhabitants, man by man, and threatened their city every day with open destruction, till at length he provoked the poor sufferers by the extremity of his wicked doings to avenge themselves. Accordingly, Mattathias, the son of Asamoneus, you know that stands for Simon, or Sam, Simon, Sam, same thing. One of the priests who lived in a village called Modin, armed himself, together with his own family. Okay, so now they're telling you about this, has recorded this last priest, okay, in Judea. Now this is supposed to be Bar Mattathias. Alright, this is supposed to be Josephus. Alright, now it's telling you that on his own accord, on his own account, the son of Simon, one of the priests who lived in the village called Modin or Masada, armed himself together with his own family, okay, which had 5 sons of his in it, and slew Bachides with daggers, okay, with daggers. Now you remember they talked about how the Sakari had daggers, okay, and thereupon out of the fear of many garrisons, okay, garrisons was just the army that worked for Epiphanes. Garrisons, that's of the enemy, he fled to the mountains. So he killed a couple niggas, fled to the mountains, and so many of the people followed him that he was encouraged to come down from the mountains and to give battle to Antiochus' generals. When he beat them and drove them out of Judea, so he came to the government by this his success, and became the prince of his own people by their own free consent. Okay, by their own free consent, and then died, leaving the government to Judas, his eldest son. Okay, to Judas, his eldest son. Okay, this is Mattathias, high priest of Judea. Now Judas, supposing that Antiochus would not lie still, meaning not move, would not gathered an army out of his own countrymen, and was the first that made a league of friendship with the Romans. Okay, and was the first to gather the army. Okay, now Judas. Okay, Judas, supposing that Antiochus would not lie still, so Judas gathered an army out of his own countrymen, okay, out of Judea, and was the first that made a league of friendship with the Romans, and drove Epiphanes out of the country when he had made a second expedition into it, and this by giving him a great defeat there. And when he was warned by this great success, he made an assault upon the garrison that was in the city, for it had not been cut off thereto. So he ejected them out of the upper city and drove the soldiers into the lower. which part of the city was called the citadel. He then got the temple under his power and cleansed the whole place, and walled it around about, and made new vessels for sacred ministrations. Now, see, this is funny because when you go to the Caesar's Messiah, okay, it wasn't Judas who said this. They didn't mention that it was Judas. Okay, they didn't mention that it was Judas, right? They did mention that it was of the Antiochs, but they didn't mention that it was Judas, right? That of Judea, right? Formed an army and was the first that made a league of friendship with the Romans and drove Epiphans out of the country. Okay? So in the Caesar's Messiah, they have the fact that these are Romans driving out, not Epiphans, but the Romans in the citadel losing. This is Judah losing to the Romans in Caesar's Messiah. So we can see that there's some type of discrepancy because, you know what I'm saying, when they're talking about who's losing, who's fighting, who's doing the fighting, because now it's Judas, right? He went and gathered friendship with the Romans, and he drove Epiphans out of the country when he had made a second expedition into it. And this by giving him a great defeat there. And when he was warned by, okay, so you have Judas and his army of Judeans driving out the Epiphans with the help of the Romans. So if Romans is coming in to, you understand, to take war on Judea, then why are the Romans helping? Why are the Romans in the war of the Jews helping Judea drive out Epiphans, when Epiphans supposed to work for the Romans? See, so you understand? So you got to dodge your own hijack. You really do. Let's continue on. He made an assault upon the garrison that was in the city, for it had not been cut off. Okay, so he ejected them out of the upper city and drove the soldiers into the lower city, which part of the city was called the citadel. He then got the temple under his power and cleansed the whole place and walled it around and about and made new vessels for sacred ministrations and brought them into the temple, because the former vessels had been profaned. He also built another altar and began to offer the sacrifices. And when the city had already received its sacred constitution again, Antiochus died, whose son Antiochus succeeded him in the kingdom, and in his hatred to the Jews also. Okay? So in this story, they actually tell you that the Romans were Jews. Okay? That the Romans were Jews. So this Antiochus got together 50,000 footmen and 5,000 horsemen and 80 elephants, and marched through Judea into the mountainous parts. He then took Bethsura, which was a small city, but at a place called Beth-Sakaris, where the passage was narrow. Okay, in Beth-Sakaris you see the word what? Sakari. Okay, so we know this was a city of Judea. Bethsura, or Bethsura was a city in Judea. Bethsura. Okay, we know Sarah for being the mother of what? Isaac. So where the passage was narrow, Judas met him with his army. However, before the forces joined battle, Judas' brother Eleazar. Okay, now you get into Judas' brother Eleazar. Judas' brother Eleazar? Eleazar, seeing the very highest of the elephants adorned with a large tower, and with military trappings of gold to guard him, and supposing that Antiochus himself was upon him, he ran a great way before his own army, and cutting his way through the enemy's troops, he got up to the elephant, yet could not reach him who seemed to be the king, by reason of his being so high. But still he ran his weapon into the belly of the beast, and brought him down upon himself, and was crushed to death, having done no more than attempted great things, and showed that he preferred glory before life. Now he that governed the elephant was but a private man, and had he proved to be Antiochus, Eleazar had performed nothing more by this bold stroke than that it might appear he chose to die. When he had the bare hope of thereby doing a glorious action, nay, this disappointment proved an omen to his brother Judas, how the entire battle would end. It is true that the Jews fought it out bravely for a long time, but the king's forces, being superior in number and having fortune on their side, obtained the victory. And when a great many of his men were slain, Judas took the rest with them, and fled to the toparchy of Gapna. So Antiochus went to Jerusalem, and stayed there but a few days, for he wanted provisions. And so he went his way. He left indeed a garrison behind him, his army, such as he thought sufficient to keep the place, but drew the rest of his army off to take their winter quarters in Syria. Okay, dodge your own hijack. Now, after the king was departed, Judas was not idle, for as many of his own nation came to him, so did he gather those that had escaped out of the battle together, and gave battle again to Antiochus, generals at the village called Asada. And being too hard for his enemies in his battle, and killing a great number of them, he was at last himself slain also. Nor was it many days afterward that his brother John had a plot laid against him by Antiochus' party, and was slain by them. So Judas being slain, John being slain. Okay, then we bring in when Jonathan, who was Judas' brother. So when Jonathan, who was Judas' brother, succeeded him, he behaved himself with great circumspection in other respects, with relationship to his own people. Okay, in relationship to his own people, and he corroborated his authority by preserving his friendship with the Romans. He also made a league with the Antiochus, the son. Yet was not all this sufficient for his security, for the tyrant Trypho, who was the guardian to Antiochus' son, laid a plot against him, and besides that, endeavored to take off his friends, and caught Jonathan by a wile, as he was going to Ptolemais the Antiochus with a few persons in his company, and put him in bonds, and then made an expedition against the Jews. But when he was afterward driven away by Simon, who was Jonathan's brother, and was enraged at his defeat, he put Jonathan to death. However, Simon managed the public affairs after a courageous manner, and took Gezerah and Joppa and Jamnia, which were cities in his neighborhood. He also got the garrison under and demolished the citadel. He was afterward an auxiliary to Antiochus against Trypho, whom he besieged in Dora, before he went on his expedition against Menasseh. Yet could not he make the king ashamed of his ambition, though he had assisted him in killing Trypho. For it was not long Antiochus sent Cinebius, his general, with an army to lay waste in Judea and to subdue Simon. Yet he, though he was now in years, conducted the war as if he were a much younger man. He also sent his sons with a band of strong men against Antiochus, while he took part of the army himself with him, and fell upon him from another quarter. He also laid a great many men in ambush in many places of the mountains, and was superior in all the attacks upon them. And when he had been conquered after so glorious a manner, he has made high priests, and also freed the Jews from the dominion of the Macedonians, after 170 years of the empire, the Seleucids. Okay, the Seleucids was with Antipater the Edomite. So you got all these names, right? Okay. So Simon also freed the Jews from dominion of the Macedonians. This Simon also had a plot laid against him, and was slain at the feast by his son-in-law Ptolemy, who put his wife and 2 sons into prison, and sent some persons to kill John, who was also called Hyrcanus. But when the young man was informed of their coming beforehand, he made haste to get the city, as having a great confidence in the people there, both on the account of the memory of glorious actions of his father. Okay. This Ptolemy, both on the account of the memory of the glorious actions of his father Ptolemy, and of the hatred they could not but bear to the injustice of Ptolemy. Ptolemy also made an attempt to get into the city by another gate, but was repelled by the people, who had just then admitted the Hyrcanus of Hyrcanus, so he retired presently to one of the fortresses that were about Jericho, which were called Dagon. Now when Hyrcanus had received the high priesthood, which his father had held before, and had offered sacrifice to God, he made great haste to attack Ptolemy, that he might afford relief to his mother and brethren. Okay. Now let's see what it says about Ptolemy. Ptolemy.
According to Wikipedia, Claudius Ptolemy was a Greco-Roman mathematician, astronomer, geographer, astrologer, and poet of a single epigram in the Greek anthology.
Okay. Okay, Claudius Ptolemy was a Greco-Roman mathematician, astronomer, and geographer. He died in Alexandria. Okay, so now what's funny is when you start to read and you see and you start to understand that, man, when you go into Ptolemy, okay, Hyrcanus, okay, others fell by the people who had just then admitted of Hyrcanus. Okay, okay, Simon. It just seemed like they're all warring with each other and then they're helping each other. Okay, they're all warring with each other, then they're helping each other. Okay, so this war of the Jews is more descriptive. I would say that, which we know is more descriptive than the New Testament. So this war of the Jews, you can see, is more descriptive when it's basically going from when each of them would fight Antioch, right? Okay, like right here. However, Simon managed public affairs a courageous manner. Okay, Simon, which were the cities in the neighborhood, also got the garrison under. So Simon warred with the garrison, right? The garrison was Antiochus' army. And demolished the citadel. Okay, Simon demolished the citadel. He was afterward an auxiliary to Antiochus. Okay, against Trypho. So now Simon helped Epiphanes or Antiochus. Simon helped Antiochus. Okay. Jonathan, who was Judah's brother, succeeded him. He behaved himself with a great circumspection and other respects with the relationship to his own people. And he corroborated his authority by preserving his friendship with the Romans. Okay, so Judas observed his friendship with the Romans. So yeah, man, it's just a little bit. We're gonna dig into it. We're going to dig more into it, but yeah, like we said, it's a lot of verbatim, a lot of typology. But the war of the Hebrews are being very descriptive. The war of the Hebrews, that means that all these are Hebrews warring against each other. And that's where it becomes beautiful. And that's where you ought to try to understand that it was a fight for righteousness. So it's very beautiful, man, because it illustrates that. Now I want to just jump into a video real quick. And this is the Jewish teachers were shaken when the Hebrew Yasharallah, when the Hebrew Yaakov. And we know these are just new titles. Alright? Because we can say when Yehuda. You understand? We can say when the Levites. You know, so remember these are just titles. Alright, but let's check out this video because it sort of gets into the same thing, the same problem that we have. When I think that the actual fight is that, man, that we, Shem, was scattered all over the world. That's one thing we must remember. That we were scattered all over the world. And so, at this point of the Hebrews, world destruction of the Hebrews, and I think as we get into it, man, I mean, we were doing a lot of fighting amongst each other. Alright? Fight for what we thought was righteous. Alright, so we'll get into that. So we'll finish up in this chapter 2. We'll get into that. We ain't gonna worry about that right now. So let's just check out this little video though. Let's check out the video. I'll just let the video explain. I know some of you have seen it. It's not gonna I'm not gonna show that much, but what it's just showing is that a distinction between the visitors on my left would be acknowledging that there are that the prophets and that the indigenous people of the Bible were of melanated skin. So you have the so-called the Gentile Jew agreeing. Okay, but then you have the Hebrew go off into some other things about Ethiopia. But the point I'm trying to make, we'll show you in 1 second. Okay, we're going to have to pass through the commercial real quick. And it's crazy. The reason why they, if you pay attention to why they use that commercial, they put, well, we'll just go through it in a second. Just hold on.
This picture is the
All right, let's go.
The more interesting part, this picture is the date it was taken. If you would look here at 1917, not only 1917, the first.
Okay, now this is he's showing them a picture of 1917, right? 1917 at the time when New Zealand was in the Americas warring against the indigenous people. So check it out.
December 1917. 1st of December 1917 was actually about 1 month after the British Empire conquered the place here from the Ottoman Empire. So what you see in front of you, this photo, is actually bragging. Because this was one of the first photos that the British forces.
So what he's saying is in 1917 is when the British Empire took the Americas from the Ottoman Empire. Okay, and what he's saying is that I think what he's initially saying is that even at that time these were whites.
Ever sent back to England. Look, we conquered the well of Abraham.
See, when he say
During
we,
World War
we conquered the well of Abraham. We conquered. He said we conquered. We conquered the well of Abraham. So who is we if he's saying we and he conquered Abraham, the well of Abraham, meaning that they found the well of Abraham?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So this is actually bragging, and you can see even
In
the British
World War
soldier.
I.
This is actually not British soldier; it's New Zealand soldier. Unfortunately, this whole system collapsed here on the well, and it was reconstructed at Smaout Street. Yeah, but in the old city. It is called Antillic Water System. I want to show you another picture. I have some more photos about the Antillic Water System. However, this is maybe the main one. These were actually the buckets that went inside the well, spinning on the conveyor. Thank you very much for coming. I hope you had a great stay here. About your question, I'm not sure about it. Jewish comes from the word Judah. That's where y'all get from.
Okay, he said Jewish comes from the word Judah. First, I find it ironic how he's telling the indigenous people that basically they're visitors and telling them, you know, thank you for staying here. Like, so that is his home in Israel, and that's not their home. So he's saying, where's the word? He's going to ask, where's the word Jew come from? We just read a lot of the words Jew, 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 Jew. Okay, so we got to understand these scholars. These scholars are not, they're not the capacity of the scholars. If they don't know anything, then what they've been taught to learn is by someone who has a premeditated, who wants a premeditated outcome. So you got to understand that nobody knows nothing but you, Hebrew. Nobody knows nothing but you. All right? So you got to dig into yourself and get the information, because don't nobody know shit but you.
Yeah, what you were saying, there's no mention of Jewish in the Torah. In the Torah, yeah.
He let them know that there's no mention of Jewish in the Torah.
That's what she was saying. But what the question I want to ask is,
It's more Israelites, usually. This is the mentioning.
like what I want to ask, like, how there is no black history in terms of, like, the show that you don't show, because if Abraham was down in Iraq, we know you have to be black, dark skin to turn all of them. You agree that he was dark skin? And even
So he agreed that Abraham was a dark skin.
Ishmael, like, if that thing is shown, if somebody dark skin to an Ishmael,
I think the most beautiful thing about the Torah is that no colors were mentioned here at all.
there's color.
So now he's trying to stray away from it to say like no colors were mentioned of the people or something like that. But then the Templar is basically saying that Ishmael has dark skin also. So where does the so-called Gentile, so-called white man come in? Where does the so-called, you understand, the so-called man, this Canaanite comes in? But he's saying, okay, you're not Ishmael. Okay, you're not Esau. Okay, and you ain't Abraham. Okay, you're not Israel. So where do you guys come from? And I hate to say it like that, because you understand that there's a grafting. There is a grafting. We must understand that. There is a grafting. Though they have their tribes, they've been grafted in, you are not to graft back into their tribes. we are not to graft back into the tribes. So that's telling you that whatever they doing, you ain't on that at all.
Skin color?
When Moses pushes on in his bosom, it come out white, and he push it back and it come out with the normal color.
Also, Miriam, her color was taken away. She was turned white leprous, and then her brother said, "Put not this person from me." So yeah, color is in there.
Yeah, that's Deuteronomy the 12th chapter. Miriam was full of leper. Because like I'm from Jamaica, Jew from Jamaica, and the brother said from America, England, Trinidad. So we see the like it's a balance. And yeah.
Now, you see a diversity of Hebrews from different places. He's from Jamaica, one is from Trinidad, one is from North America, and one is from England. Okay, these are the Hebrews that have been scattered. This is Israel that have been scattered. Okay, that have been scattered.
Because we know all those people back then was dark. And it is everybody here will admit that. But now we come and we see something. And everything is just like whitewashed.
So that's what I wanted to ask about that president. Which president was
He said everything is whitewashed.
yeah, which president was he again? Because I need help for my edification.
He was the Egyptian.
Right. Was he the president? He said before Abdallah?
No,
After him.
Do you remember the quote that he gave?
speech.
He said that you left here black and came back white.
Hmm.
He said we cannot accept you and never live here in peace when he was speaking about the Jewish nation. Do you remember
The
this
one before it.
Yeah, the one before it. The one before it.
That speech.
Yeah, the one before it.
And this was before the war.
I mean, but John made the same speech at the UN too. So I'm just asking, like, you work here, like, what's the future? What?
That speech.
The one before.
And this was before the
He said we cannot accept you and never live here in peace. That he gave?
speech. He was the Egyptian.
Right. Was he the president?
Everything was just like whitewashed.
So that's what I wanted to ask about that president. Which president was that? Yeah, which president was he again? Because I need help for my edification.
He was the Egyptian.
Right. Was he the president? He said before Abdallah?
No,
After him.
Do you remember the quote that he gave?
speech.
Yes.
Okay, let's see something real quick. President of Egypt said, Jews. Oh boy. Trying to see which president it was of Egypt that was, because I couldn't get the name. Gamal, Nasser, Abdel Nasser. You left here. Okay, let's check that out. This is in the Pinterest. Oh, let's check it out. It's in the Pinterest, but oh well. All right. The Europeans claiming to be Jews are nothing more than Hebrew speaking Gentiles, and they don't even speak Hebrew. They speak Yiddish or Aramaic. Okay? The late president of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, stated on television, "You, the Jews, will never be able to live here in peace because you left here black but came back white. We cannot accept you." That was in 1952. Now, Now, but against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, that ye may know how that Ahchwa do put difference between the Egyptians and Israel. That ye may know how that Ahchwa do put the difference between Egyptians and Israel. This is the thing. The thing is, they want you to denounce the whole thing. They want you to make it seem like the Greeks were these pale faces coming over to enslave you with Christopher Columbus. But nah, man. Nah, man. These were Nagas enslaving and destructioning other Nagas. Okay? And then after the replacing of the people and after the wars of the Nagas, and then you have other kings bringing in because other kings fought with the Nagas. So while the Nagas were plotting on the Nagas, somebody else was plotting on all the Nagas. Okay, do you see that now? So while Israel was fighting against each other, the Canaanites were plotting to steal all of your land. So we got to be careful when we read the story, because we want to get upset and we want to denounce the whole thing, or we want to fight your brothers. All right. But see, when you talk about your brother and you talk about Ishmael and you talk about Edom, really, that's Israel. That's Shem. Everyone, all of Shem have a choice or have a chance to be with Yash. Because you know why? All of Shem was enslaved by the Canaanite. See, that deal didn't go right, did it? That deal didn't quite go the way you planned it when you planned to enslave your brother. But let's remember the story of Joseph. Okay? Joseph's brother was with him, was with them. They lived in the same city with them, in the same land with them. Ishmael. Right? Joseph wasn't sold by his brother to his brother. Joseph was sold by his brother to a foreigner. All right? A foreigner. Another Naga who was a foreigner. Another Naga who was a foreigner. How is that, people? How is that, people? So the Romani, the pomegranate, is your brother. That is the fight of the Jews. That is the fight of the Hebrews. That is the fight of the Hebrews. To get all of Hashem in line. Now what happened after that? But we have to know there was something that the Most High ordained for you. Through you burning of the fire, to be able to see your kingdom again. Because your kingdom wasn't tossed away, thrown down. That's the illusion that they want you to think, that your kingdom was tossed away or thrown out. But no, your kingdom was just extended. Okay, your kingdom was extended. Your kingdom was extended, man. For the Most High said that the seed of David, a light shall burn forever. A light shall burn forever. All you have to do is get back to Hawa. All you gotta do is get back to Hawa. Get back to Hawa. He'll lead you to your priestly kingdom. Search for your priest king. Alright? Search for your Prester John. It's just saying search for your priest king, your priest kingdom. Alright? And your seed is under your priest kingdom. And that means where these so-called melanated, these so-called blacks, these so-called blacks, your land has been whitewashed. Can we live together? No. The jealousy of this whitewash is so inferior. So we must dodge the hijacks, family. They want you to denounce the whole thing when your priest kingdom and your lamp never burned out. So that means your kingdom was always honored. But there had to be a day of reckoning. Now we read that you weren't even supposed to sit and wait. We read that you were supposed to flee. You're supposed to flee, man. But you stayed there and took that ass whooping. But when you took that ass whooping, you were supposed to resist. Just like Eleazar and the 7 brethren, because if you had someone trying to get you to eat pork, to do all these things, your brother wouldn't even made you do that. So you just gotta understand. You just gotta understand the idols. But you have to understand that the Most High did ordain the war with you and your people. But you gotta understand how the enemy is trying to use that for political gain, meaning he's creating these wars over and over and over again. He's gotten you to follow along with his Messiah. You too busy worshiping a Messiah, you don't understand what the Most High is telling us. That Messiah is going to free you through this kingdom. If that Messiah doesn't free his people through this kingdom, then he's not your Messiah. So we need to get it back, priest. I'm going to let y'all go to sleep, but we need to get it back, priest. I love y'all. Y'all look at what everybody's doing. He's doing his thing, man. He's working overtime for the Creator. And y'all going to y'all pockets for that, man. Y'all support this wall of protection. How a stew Vanessa, P, and all of the family, all of the Shabbatai. No one is doing this here, man. We are giving the land back its purity. We're giving the people back its purity. All of Hashem. All of Hashem must stand up. Stand up for Yasher. Stand up for the Ame'ricans. All of Shem must stand up for this entire continent. We are the Ame'ricans. This is Amaru. And it's that Ruach. So I hope I didn't confuse y'all. I just took it slow, man. We just took it real slow. But y'all dig into this, man. Because this is the destruction or the disruptive impact of what we were doing. So y'all bob and weave, and at the end of the day, y'all get food. Looking for food. Y'all get food. Halil Hawa. Halil Hawa. Peace and power to the battle family. AD, I'll be to see you in a minute, bro. We'll be touching locks in a minute, bro. I'm going back over to the chat, man. See what the brethren, see what the family, see what the Shabbatai is talking about. Right now, I think we about to Spartan up with the big payback. I think we about to Spartan up, family. Let me see what they talking about. Oh, they playing. Yeah, they about to Spartan up. We about to Spartan up, man. I don't know what's going on with it, but it ain't giving me my thizzle. Let me refresh the page. Maybe that'll do it. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, man, y'all get over there. The password is 1234 to get you in the door, man. Y'all get over there and have some fun. Y'all get over there and have some fun. I know what time it is. I'm just... Spartan up 300,000 in the Citadel at one time. Oh, that's why I wasn't working. I had to reconnect. Alright. Y'all see me, I'm doing the same thing. Going in. Man, y'all go over there and show some love, man. Show some Ahchwa, man. It's a beautiful thing. Now let me see if we can get alright. Wow, we gonna get it now. No? There we go. There we go.
You want to fight? Look here. Don't do me no done favor. I don't know karate, but
I know crazy. Nigga.
Hey, get ready. That's the fight there.
Get ready, you mother.
Wanna be
Check out the new show. That's the new drop. Vanessa P.
I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm the son of a man. But don't take care of you. Done found the kid. Get ready for the big payback. Hey, hit me again. Lord, Lord. Hey, get ready.
Man, y'all make sure y'all get over there too. Check out the TDRs for the healthy living, man. Brother Nature and Chef Candy with the healthy herbal and veggies, man. Y'all got to get over there because we trying to do the same everything. You got the crystals with with the battle time. You with CJ, man, and we just, man, we powering up, man. So y'all just make sure y'all implement yourselves and implement that power up, that Shibata into your life, man, and to change your life. It really will. It really will change your life, man. So become a talk-to-ness again. Alright? I'm out of here, Shibata. Every day, all day, y'all remember Shabbat Shalom, alright? Ahab. And Dawadah, man, for joining me in this Yapa flow. So I will see y'all soon, man, and all is well. Steadfast. Hawa.